Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hi, I'm Tracy Clark, author of the Cass Raines Chicago Mystery Series, and I'm so thrilled to be here with DC today. My crime series features an African-American woman, Cassandra Raines, an ex-cop turned sole operative in her own PI agency. Cass works the gritty streets of Chicago, hunting for bad guys and justice for her clients, and she does not stop until the job is done. I'll be reading the opening pages of Runner, the fourth book in the series. In this one, Cass has been hired to find 15-year-old Ramona Titus, who has run away from her foster home in the middle of a Chicago winter. It's a tough job, one made tougher when Cass soon learns she's not the only one looking for Ramona. This is Runner, Chapter 1. I yanked the door open and flung my half-frozen self into the snug white castle, the hawk flying up the back of my neck, my lungs shot rigid by the sub-zero wind chill. I stomped my feet to clear the slush off my boots, and then stood there a second, inhaling warmth, the smell of fried onions and thin square meat sizzling on the griddle, already starting the thawing process. It had just been a short dash from my car, but the tips of my fingers were already beginning to tingle. I slipped the beanie off my head and scanned the tables, finding what I would have expected to find in a White Castle at 2 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Club rats easing down from a stupid night out. Street folk looking for a sheltered stop before they ventured out again. And those coming from or going to shift work for painfully low but honest pay. The castle was cheap, open late, heated, and unless you came in and started tossing the place or harassing people, you were left alone. I was looking for Lisa Evans, a prospective client. She'd called my office the day before looking for help to find her missing 15-year-old daughter, Ramona, but she hadn't given me a lot of details over the phone. Truthfully, though, she had me at missing 15-year-old, so I was here to get the rest of it and to see if I could do anything for her. My eyes landed on a lone woman sitting at a far table, burrowed deep in a light jacket, no hat, no boots, her eyes fixed in a faraway stare. She was dark, middle-aged, 40s maybe. There was no one else waiting alone, so I assumed she was who I was here to see. I watched her for a moment, trying to get a feel for her. She looked sad, beaten down, and she wasn't eating. There was only a paper coffee cup in front of her, and she tugged at her sleeves a lot. I walked over. "Miss Evans?" She startled, looked up, took me in. Then her eyes left mine, and she appeared to focus on something over my left shoulder. I flicked a look to see what had caught her attention, but there was nothing but an empty table behind me. I looked back. Evans's eyes dropped from mine. She'd seen nothing, apparently. She was just having a difficult time looking at me. "You're the detective, Cassandra Raines." She said it in a clear voice, loud enough for the half-buzzed night owls nearest to us to clearly hear. I cocked an ear, then waited for what I knew was coming. I'd planned on counting to 5, but it hadn't taken that long for the half of the party revelers and seasoned working girls at a break to get up from their tables and slip out into the cold. Detectives, even private ones like me, got no love at all, and it said a lot when a person would rather risk frostbite and hypothermia than share space with one of us. I began to unzip my jacket, thought better of it halfway through the zip, and zipped it up again. I'd give it another minute or 20 to warm up some. I watched Evans sitting there, her leg bouncing nervously below the table, her not looking at me. She was thin now that I saw her up close, and her eyes had dark circles under them. "You're not hungry?" She shook her head, the denial unconvincing. Then she took a sip from her cup. There was no steam coming off the top. She'd obviously been sitting with it a while. "Well, I'm starving," I said. "I haven't eaten anything for hours. You mind me getting something? We can talk while I eat." She nodded an okay, and I walked up to the counter, ordered double, sneaking the occasional peek back at the table, but finding Lisa Evans unchanged each time. My order was up fast, not much of a line at 2 a.m. I carried the bag back to the table, sat, and then dug in. I offered Evans a slider, but she shook her head no. "Oh, come on," I said. "I can't eat all these up by myself. I mean, I could, but I'd regret it almost instantly." I offered up the bag. "Help me out?" Tentatively, like a shy kitten coaxed toward a bowl of buttermilk, Evans took a slider from the bag and bit into it. I spread the rest of the tiny boxes onto the table, positioning them between us. Easy access for whoever wanted more. 2 a.m., I said, smiling. Unconventional. She finished the slider, eyed the line of boxes, but didn't go for one. It looked like I was going to have to coax her along, one slider at a time. I pushed a few boxes nearer to her. She smiled, took another. I got a job, she said, cleaning places at night. The bus lets me out at the corner there. I wondered how old she was. I'd pegged her as being in her early 40s, but closer to her now, she looked younger than that. Something had hit her hard somewhere, that was evident, and her shoulders drooped from the weight it left behind. How can I help you, Miss Evans?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Today, I am so excited. We're going mystery again this week, and I have the amazing Miss Tracy. Welcome, madam. How are you?
Hello, glad to be here. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so excited you're joining us today. So we're going to get started and jump right in. Tell us about the book. What is the book about? And then what is the series about? Because you got me there. Tell us.
You know what? This is a classic PI series. Classic PI, outsider person, running the mean streets, looking for bad guys, getting into fights, doing all that classic stuff that we sort of expect from a PI novel. She's just African American, female, which is a little different from Sam Spade or the Raymond Chandler things. It's a modern day, updated, urban criminal story. Nothing more than that. There's not any great message in it. It's just sheer fun. I have a great deal of fun writing it. I love this character. The fourth book in the series is Runner. And as I read previously, she is looking for a lost 15-year-old in the middle of a Chicago winter. Now, starts out as a simple case, runaway, kind of difficult to do, but she can handle it. While she's looking for Ramona Titus, she slowly finds out or discovers that she is not the only one out there looking for this kid. And there's something going on that she has to figure out before somebody or something happens to this child. So it's sort of a cat and mouse sort of a story. She's coming up against her old allies or her old enemies, the police department, these forces that are against her. But she's out there doing it. She has to find this kid. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. Things are sort of piling up on her, and it's not fun. But those are the best stories to sort of write.
Absolutely. And you have all this energy and all this passion. What made you decide to come up with this series?
Well, I always knew I wanted to write, even as a kid. I was one of those kids who sort of had a notebook under their mattress, little stories in it. But you don't sort of even voice to yourself that you want to be a writer until you sort of get to the point where it's sort of make or break. You either pursue it and go for it, as frightening as it is, or you just let it go. And I'm one of those people who have a hard time sort of letting things go, kind of stubborn. Very stubborn. A mule is probably my spirit animal. So I just sort of made the decision that I wanted to write. This is the kind of story that I enjoyed reading. So I sort of took my turn at sort of writing my own version of that. I always liked the sort of Thin Man series, 30s and 40s, Chester Himes, Walter Mosley. Then we sort of got into the early 80s when all of these wonderfully talented female crime writers came out. Valerie Wilson Wesley in the 92, I think in 91 or 92. Barbara Neely, Sarah Paretsky, Sue Grafton, all of these wonderfully talented writers. So that was probably at the point where I got to the point where it was either make or break. So I could either go with what I felt that I was going to be good at, or I could just sort of go on with my life and do something else. And so I started. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. I think by the time I sold my first book, I had been actually in the trenches, revising, tearing things up, going back again for almost 20 years. So it took a while to sort of learn the craft of writing, to learn how to tell an effective story, how to create characters that readers would be interested in reading about. When I finally got to the point where it happened, here it is, now I'm off and running. So I'm into book 4. It'll come out in June. And then I'm writing now the 5th book in a different standalone sort of a story. But, the writing, it just keeps going. I'm in it to
Love
win it now.
You're committed. There is no going back now. Once you jump into this, you're in.
That's a nice word of saying it. I'm just stubborn. I'm just stubborn. I just didn't like the idea, that the rejection letters came back and people were saying, "We don't want it. It's not good for you." Blah 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 blah. Uh-uh. I knew that I had something. It was just a matter of refining it, making it better, getting it to a point where somebody out there thought it was good enough to publish. So it took a while, as I said, more than 20 years, but you have to sort of stick in there.
What kept you going? Besides being stubborn, what was that fire that kept you going for 20 years?
I think most writers know when they have something. They might not be able to define what that something is, but they know that they have either a talent or a gift or a passion for what they're doing. And I had all those three things. It was just a matter of finding the right story, the right cast of characters, the right kind of plot, the right kind of genre, and just hold in there until somebody sort of recognized the fact that this was maybe not bad and worthy of publication. So I think a mistake most writers make is that they sort of give up too soon. It is a sort of a crushing thing to sort of get a rejection letter and then another and then another and then another. But if you stick in there, you're pretty sure what you have, things can happen.
I love the fact that it's all about sticking to it and being committed and knowing that you have that passion
Yeah.
and being able to actually share with the world. So you committed to this series, which is really exciting and fun. And I like the fact that you said it's entertaining. Sometimes we take that for granted.
hmm Well, it's contemporary crime fiction. So you sort of are looking out at the world as it is and sort of reflecting the crimes and the neighborhoods and the things that happen in those neighborhoods and to the people that they happen to. So to that extent, sort of reflects the world that we're living in. But on the other level, this is sort of an entertaining character. She doesn't take herself too seriously most of the time. She is dogged and intrepid and determined to sort of get justice for her clients, but she's not above a pratfall or, making a joke or doing something stupid that sort of gets her in hot water, but she then has to get herself out of. So it's both those things all working together, and sort of somewhere in there is a message or a point, but then it's mostly entertainment. So I don't want to sort of write a treatise on social justice or anything like that, although there are elements of that in the books, each one of them. But it's mostly a PI story, rip roaring, bad guy, gotta catch him. There we go.
I like the social commentary intertwined with the story because sometimes it can be flipped and can be very hard for the readers to handle. So I think that is very, very powerful. You talked about your main character. When did you decide that she was going to be African American, or did you knew that from the beginning?
Oh, I knew that from the beginning. I'm also a reader, and I started reading early, and I started reading mysteries early. And what I didn't see in those mysteries was me, somebody that looks like me. So when I sort of made that make or break decision to actually try it and see what came of it, I knew instantaneously that my main character was going to be Black and female. Now, whatever happened around that, I still had to discover, but the character was there, the voice was there, her gender and her race was there, and then we'll see what else develops to that. But yeah, right off the bat, I knew exactly who she was going to be.
In the last four books of her series and her journey, how she has grown into this character. What have you seen the transition in your character's life?
Miraculously, she's sort of stubborn like I am, so she doesn't change that much. She changed in sort of little steps, little baby steps. She has major trust issues. Her mother died when she was 12. Father took off, couldn't handle single parenthood, raised by her grandparents, who then died before she sort of hit 20. She sort of had a pseudo father image or figure to sort of take on that parenthood role. He dies in book one. So now she's sort of this person who has sort of lost everything. And now she has really lost everything. And now she has to figure out how she's going to sort of live the rest of her life with these trust issues, with people falling away, with her not being able to sort of attach to much of anything, but still wanting to see justice done. That's her, I think, passion. That's who she is, this sort of a champion figure, but she's internally sort of a marshmallow. She sort of created a family for herself where the other one fell away. And she's still not happy with that. I mean, she's still not able to sort of really latch on and sort of commit 100%. So she's a flawed character, which is fantastic for fiction because you have all kinds of opportunities to sort of poke at her to see how much she can take, how much she can develop, how far she can go, how little she gives in relation to what she gets. So all of those things are interesting things to sort of work with for a writer. She's a mess most of the time, which is great, again, for fiction. She sort of changes a little bit from book to book, not much, because I don't think most of us change much in our lives. We are who we are, can change a little bit, not a lot. So that's the same for her. So we'll see how she sort of handles what comes next. When we sort of leave her in book 4, she's sort of at a crossroads. Now I have to figure out which one of those paths she takes, and we'll see what happens when I get to that.
How many books are you planning for this series, or did you know?
I don't know. Right now, I'm taking a pause. So I've got 2 standalones coming next, and then we'll see what happens with Cass. She's at that crossroads. She's sort of frozen in that spot, and I'll see what I come up with to sort of move her here or there, whichever is the most interesting.
Okay, so can you tell us about your standalone? What are those books about?
The standalone that we're working on now is called Hide, and it's about serial killer in Chicago, my town. Again, my protagonist is African American and female. This time she's not a PI, she's a police homicide detective. So now her and her partner are charged with finding this serial killer in a city of 3 million when bodies are dropping one every other night or so. So I think I'm up to body count of 4 at the moment. I'm not quite finished, and there might be another one or two. I don't know. I'll just have to play it by ear. But so far, it looks good. It'll come out December of 2022.
Nice. How much research do you have to do for your characters?
Characters, not much because they sort of show up when you need them. You sort of add things as the story progresses. Would it be interesting if this happened or if she were this? But character wise, I think I'm pretty solid. Serial killers is another thing. New to me. I'm not a serial killer. I've never met one. So now you have to sort of figure out what kind of psychopathy we're dealing with. What are they specifically? What is their mental defect? And so I've done a lot of work on that to see what their motivation is, what are they lacking in terms of, civilization or whatever. I mean, there's got a screw loose somewhere. We've got to figure out what that thing is and sort of explore it. So that's the most of the research went into. Just figuring out what kind of people these people were, what they lacked the rest of us have, and then, let the story play out.
How long does it take you to work between one book and the other? Because you said you have two going at the same time. Can you switch between them, or do you have to do one and then jump to the other? How does that work?
Well, I'm doing it one at a time. So I'm working on Hyde now. When I finish that and turn it in on the first part of December, then I'll start thinking about the second book. Have sort of vaguely an idea of what it might be about, but that might change. I don't have an outline or anything. I don't usually work that way. I'm sort of a pantser, which means I sort of sit down and whatever pops out on the page that day, that's what I work with. So we'll see what the second book is about when I get to it. I'll probably start thinking about that more firmly halfway through the book I'm working on now, just sort of niggling the ideas and see where I can sort of turn it and twist it. But, knock wood, hopefully I'll come up with something.
It sounds like you're almost there. You have this, your imagination is flowing. Where do you
Oh, that
get
could
your
change.
inspiration?
That could change any moment.
Where did you get your inspiration from?
I don't know. I think you sort of get inspiration from everything. I mean, you're out in the world, or we used to be before the last year. Every person you see is a potential character. Everything you sort of come across in the newspaper or on the news is a potential plot twist or line. You find inspiration from everywhere. But when you're sort of working writer, you have to sort of get the job done. So inspiration has to quickly turn to button the seat, eyes on the page. Get ideas anywhere and characters anywhere, and then you have to do something with them. That's just raw material. Then the work has to be the actual tapping on the laptop and getting the words out.
You just described my favorite quote from Picasso: "Inspiration will find you working." I was like,
Exactly.
that sounds,
Exactly.
that's about right. While you've been working in this field, you've been doing this for a while. What author has motivated you?
Well, I've been reading a long time. I think every writer that I read sort of inspires me. I mean, every writer that you sort of look at their work and sort of go through their story slowly and have it as it sort of rolls out, you find a different way of sort of saying things, a more compact way of sort of sending a message through. I find inspiration in every writer that I read, mostly crime fiction, fortunately for me. One of my favorites was Valerie Wilson Wesley early in the day when I was like 12, 13 years old, when I sort of reading crime exclusively. Her Tamara Hale series really sort of sparked an interest. Here's an African American female PI, just like why I wanted to write. So I sort of devoured her books, used them sort of like a textbook, really, going page by page, seeing how she sort of strolled out pacing and her character developed her characters and sort of created setting and things like that. And I do that for everything that I read way back in the day to sort of get me started. I think writers are readers. And the more you read, the better you write. The better you write, the better for you and better for your readers. Valerie Wilson Wesley, Barbara Neely, Walter Mosley, Chester Himes, Sue Grafton, Sarah Paretsky. I mean, all of them. You can learn something from every one of them.
Are you usually only reading mystery, or do your categories for reading actually changes? Do you have a mix?
Well, I kind of like crime. I sort of stick to crime. I like thrillers. I like suspense. I like some literary fiction too. I read most everything. I prefer crime. I prefer PI crime. I guess I sort of stick to what I know and what I like, but I read other things as well.
Awesome. That is really exciting. If you had an advice you can give an up and coming author, what would you tell them?
Be stubborn. There are a lot of forces out that want to make you stop. The industry wants to make you stop. You will get those rejection letters and you'll be crushed for like a day and a half as you sort of read over this form letter that they've expended no interest or energy in sort of sending out, crushing your spirit. And if you allow them to do that, then, you're probably in the wrong profession. But you really have to be strong, know that you have something, have a passion for what you're doing, and continue on. And any advice I would give to a young writer or any writer is just to keep writing. The more you do it, the better you get. The better you get, the better your chances. If you give up, you're done. And if you could
That is
give up so easily after like 10 or 15 rejection letters, it's probably not the thing for you.
that is such an awesome advice. I agree. Such a beautiful advice, Madam. So tell us, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find your books? Where can we get more information on you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at TracyPC6161. I've got my website, Tracy Clark Book. I am also on Facebook. I have no idea what my Facebook thing is, but I'm there. You'll find my picture. Just type in my name. And Instagram. Same deal. Have no idea. But check me out. I'll be there. Probably posting something
Awesome.
stupid, but
Our readers can find you. They will definitely connect, which is awesome. That is absolutely fabulous. You have so much stuff going on. You got books coming. You are excited about it, which is even more fun.
Well, you have to be excited about it. I mean, this is your work. I mean, if you're not excited about your work, who's going to be excited about your work? I mean, you have to be excited about what you're writing and know that what you're putting out there is fantastic. Readers are going to find it and love it. Going to be moving on to the next phase. So I'm excited about it. Yes. I'm excited about the series. I think it's good. I'm excited about the standalone. Serial killers are a little creepy even for me, but it's exciting sort of finding out about them and sort of twisting it and finding a good plot line for it. So yeah, it's all good.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. So it's been so much fun talking to you, but we're going to switch gears. Are you ready for our lightning round?
Let's go.
Easy peasy. Let's see how you do, madam. Ready?
Yep.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
You had to think about it. You're like,
I had to think about it because they're kind of close, right? The same taste, different texture. Pancakes.
fruit or vegetables?
Fruit.
Man, these are hard for you. You're like, what to do,
Well,
what to do.
They each have their selling points, all right? Probably fruit. Fruit. Let's go fruit.
Don't think too hard on these ones. Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
I would have thought you would go for drama. Okay, not bad.
I like a good laugh.
Awesome. So we're going to switch gears. Let's see how you do with this one. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Invisibility. Writers are wonderful sneak thieves. We love to eavesdrop. We love to sort of look in on other people's drama and their whatever. So to being invisible, sort of walk into somebody's life and just sit there while they have their life drama. And then you just sort of write it down and then you go on with your life.
Ooh, that's a whole different sneaky way of looking at that. I love it. Nice.
That's the way we are.
So here's our last one. Let's see how you do. If your life had a theme song, who would it be?
That's a tough one. I have no idea. I don't think you could sort of capsulize my entire life and all its drama and mess in one theme song. I'd have to have an entire Broadway score.
Love it. You would need an entire soundtrack.
I need a whole thing. I can't do it. Yeah.
That's good to know. I like. But do you have any closing remarks for us?
Well, I just hope the viewers or your listeners will sort of check out my series. I think it's good. I think they'll have a good time with Cass. Happy reading.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us in another awesome episode. Go ahead and check out Miss Tracy's series. Check out her website and her social media as well. While you're at it, give us a like, share this episode, and we'll see you again next week with another exciting author. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.